Alright, so in the previous video we learned how to add and subtract matrices, and we also learned how to multiply a matrix by a scalar. Well, in this video we're going to look at how we can multiply matrices together. Now there's some rules we have to follow when multiplying matrices. The first thing that we're going to look at is we're going to have to remember that we have to multiply rows by columns. And you'll see how that works here in a second. But there's one thing that we always have to look for. We can only multiply two matrices if the number of columns in the first matrix is equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. It actually sounds more complicated than it actually is, so let's look at an example. So in this example we have these two matrices. Now the dimensions of these two matrices is the first one is a 2 by 3 matrix and the second one is a 3 by 2 matrix. Now if you notice, the number of columns in the first matrix is equal to the number of rows in the second matrix. Or an easy way to look at it is, do the numbers, the last number in the first matrix match the first number in the second matrix? If they do, we can multiply them together. And the numbers on the outside, the 2 by 2, gives us the dimensions of our answer. So let's see how we would multiply two matrices together. So in this example, we have a 2 by 2 matrix and a 2 by 3 matrix. So we always want to look to make sure, again, that these two numbers are the same. And they are. So when we multiply these together, our answer is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. Now, how do we do that? Well, remember we're going to multiply each row by each column. So we're going to take, and our answer is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. And so when we're doing this, it's going to take a little bit of work, and it's going to take a little bit of space on our papers. But for this example, we're going to multiply the first number in that first row, the 2, by the first number in that first column, the 3. And we're going to add to that the second number in that first row and the second number in that first column. So the first element is going to end up being the result of 2 times 3 plus negative 1 times 5. And we're going to go through and simplify this later, but we're going to set up each element first. So that's going to give us the first element. To get the next element, we're going to use, again, that same row, the 2 and the negative 1. This time we're going to use the second column, the negative 9 and 7. So we'll take 2 times negative 9 plus negative 1 times 7. And then you guessed it, we're going to do that first row by the last column. So we would take 2 times 2 plus negative 1 times negative 6. Now we're done with that first row. So that means we're going to go down to the second row. So in the second row, we're going to use that second row and multiply that times the first column to get the first element there. So we're going to take 3 times 3 plus 4 times 5. To get the next element, we would take the 3 times negative 9 times 4 times, or plus 4 times 7. And lastly, we would take 3 times 2 plus 4 times negative 6. So what we're going to do now is we're going to simplify all this work to get our final 2 by 3 matrix. So we're going to take 2 times 3 plus negative 1 times 5, and we get 1 as our answer. 2 times negative 9 plus negative 1 times 7 is negative 23. 2 times 2 plus negative 1 times negative 6 is 10. And 3 times 3 plus 4 times 5 would be 29. And 3 times negative 9 plus 4 times 7 would be 1. And 3 times 2 plus 4 times negative 6 would be negative 18. And if you don't like doing that in your head, you can multiply each of those elements and combine each of those using a calculator. There's no shame in that to make sure that you get the correct answer. But if you notice, our answer, sure enough, is a 2 by 3 matrix. Let's look at another example. So here we have these two matrices multiplied together. So if you notice, the first one's a 2 by 3 matrix and the second one's a 2 by 2 matrix. Uh-oh. These numbers don't match. So as a result, we cannot multiply these two matrices together. So there's no solution here. Let's try another one. Here we have a 2 by 2 and another 2 by 2 matrix. So sure enough, the middle numbers match up. So your outside numbers are 2, so our answer is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do it the same way as we did the previous one. So we're going to multiply each row and each column. So we're going to take 0 times 4 plus negative 1 times negative 2. And then we'll take 0 times negative 3 plus negative 1 times 5. We're done with that row, so now we're going to go to the next row. So we're going to take and use that 1, 0, and the 4, negative 2. So we get 1 times 4 plus 0 times negative 2. And lastly, we would take 1 times negative 3 plus 0 times 5. Anytime you have zeros in a matrix, it always makes it a lot easier. So we can see that we would get a positive 2 here. This would give us a negative 5. This would give us a positive 4. And this would give us a negative 3. And sure enough, we can see our matrix is a 2 by 2 matrix. All right. So I want you guys to give it a shot. I want you guys to try these next 3 examples on your own. So why don't you go ahead and pause this video and hit play when you're ready to check to see if you have the correct answers. All right, let's see how you did. Let's start with this first one. So this first one, we have a 2 by 2 matrix. So our answer is going to be a 2 by 2 matrix. So you should have gotten this work. Again, you want to show your work. So if you do make a mistake, I can help figure out where you made your mistake from. But your resulting answer should be this matrix. That's 8, 5, 20, 13. Let's take the next one. Now this one, we have a 2 by 3 matrix and a 1 by 3 matrix. Those can't be multiplied together because the middle numbers are not the same. So there's no solution. Lastly, let's look at this one. So this one is a 1 by 3 matrix and a 3 by 2 matrix. So you notice the middle numbers are the same. So our answer is going to be a 1 by 2 matrix. So when you multiply those together, you should get 14 and 7. If you didn't get that, check your work. All right, well that's it. So hopefully you have a better understanding now of how to multiply matrices. And good luck now as you work on your assignment.